What's up, everybody? Alex from Columbus here. Welcome back and welcome to episode number 19 of What's on Tap, basic beers, complex albums, and something else depending on what the title of this video is. So, admittedly, when I typically do these, I guess for the first 18 of them, I would typically crack open like a little bit of a fancier beer, really lean into the independent craft beer scene. But the reality is, it's Friday night, and I only have one beer in the fridge. And that was because someone gave it to me. And so I was like, well, I can't do a What's on Tap without a beer, but this is the only beer I have. So here's what we're drinking today. We're drinking a Coors Light out of, I think, Golden? They're out of Golden, but of course, because we're in Columbus, it's that Ohio State variant, that Scarlet and Gray. You know, of the light beer variety, the macro beers, Coors is like right in the middle for me. You know, I would prefer like a Michelob or a Bud Light even. But I probably like Coors a bit more than like a Miller. You know, the interesting thing with Coors Light is they will say, I don't know how true this is. I guess we'll figure it out here as you see this perfectly clear out of a Sugar Creek brewery, I think, out of Charlotte. Anyway, that there is like this banana ester. I forget what it's called, but this idea that that's what sets apart Coors is like this certain ester that they use that tastes or smells of banana. Ah, man. It just tastes like sticky Dive Bar, you know? And some of y'all are into that sort of thing, myself included. All right, so got a lot to go through today. We're going to talk about some killer reissues that have popped up. We're going to talk about just some things I've been spinning recently. Some incredible dollar finds. I always do some dollar find stuff. And then two records that are kind of teetering on the top of my albums of the year. So without much further ado, let's get into three very important reissues. And we'll start with a big one because a lot of people have been showing this, talking about it, as they should. But your boy did pick up, if he could get it out the sleeve, if I had a nickel for that, your boy did pick up the Rhino High Fidelity numbered, limited version of Buckingham Nicks 1973. Full disclosure, I had never even heard the record. Never had heard it. I will admit this. I think we need more of this. Full FOMO, full drank the Kool-Aid, whatever you want to call it. I had never heard this record. And all that to say, I love it. I fucking love the record. I really do. Really, the only thing I knew about this was that the song Crystal, which is off of the Fleetwood Mac's self-titled 75 record, was originally on this record. But, I mean, it's so good. I did not realize that this record was so... this sounds a little bit basic, but so very acoustic, right? Like, I guess I was more or less thinking about it was going to sound like the, 75 Fleetwood Mac record or Rumors or something like that. And obviously the voices do with Stevie and Lindsay. I had never heard this record before. I really love this record, and everybody was everybody. There's 50 different versions of this that just got released. But why is it so important? I think they did like, an original pressing of this back in 73 on Polydor / Oyster, maybe, in the US. And then, mixed reissues here and there. I think maybe there was one that came out in the late 70s, early 80s after, obviously, Fleetwood Mac blew up. But, yeah, I don't know. I got it. I love it. It is, of course, that Rhino High Fidelity with that juicy Obi. No idea what the number is because the Obi's covering it up, but, yeah, great stuff. Let's keep it moving. This was a fun one. I'd been eyeing this for a while. Again, another reissue that had a bunch of different versions. They had like a regular version. They had a purple version. They had a double 45 all analog cut version. But the one I wanted to go with was a store exclusive that I think this might be one of the sickest looking records of the year. But the record that I'm talking about is the debut from Funkadelic, the Funkadelic self-titled, from 69, maybe? 1970, originally on Westbound. Now, this record is a extremely difficult record to find, period. If you do find it, it's probably pretty damn expensive. And if you do find it and it's pretty expensive, it's probably beat to absolute hell. I mean, these are records that people were snorting cocaine off of. And it's tough to find those early records, right? It's like, Maggot Brain. Everybody talks about Maggot Brain, and it's a great record. It's rare, yes, but the problem is it's just typically like someone just completely blew their load all over it and then started licking it from the top down, So the point is that this finally got a reissue, and the one I got was actually a store exclusive, a collaboration between Plaid Room Records, which is the record store that's attached basically to Coal Mine Records out of Loveland, Ohio, and Seasick Records, which is an independent store in Birmingham, Alabama. They did like a color exclusive. And let me tell you, I think that this thing is absolutely smoking. Look at that, man. That's the color right there. That is some trippy funkadelic shit. And I mean, I would guess if you don't know this record, you might know Funkadelic or some of the Parliament stuff. And that's a whole complicated history to get into. But really, it's not even a funk record, really. It is really like a kind of an acid, psychedelic, trippy record. I mean, these are absolute trips of a record. Really, they would change their sound several albums later to really reflect more of the funky soul type of stuff. But at this point, with their first record, I mean, it is just acid-drenched psychedelic goodness, in your cranium. So there's that. And this actually just got released today. Time I'm recording this, it's October 3rd. And we finally have a reissue of Warren Zevon's My Rides Here from 2002. So this is later career Warren Zevon, obviously. It's his, I guess that would be the penultimate, his second to last record before he sadly passed away. Interestingly enough, and this just, I think, is a credit to Warren and his brilliance. In the year 2000, he released a record called Life Will Kill Ya. In 2002, he releases this record called My Rides Here, which he described as a meditation on death. This was before he was sick. It kind of makes you start thinking. And then 3 months after the release of this record, it turns out that he gets diagnosed with terminal lung cancer, right? And then he would eventually do his sort of goodbye album called The Wind, which he literally, wrote, recorded while he was dying. And so it's always so interesting listening to something like this where you're like, did he know something was around the corner? Like, Life Will Kill Ya, My Ride's Here. I mean, he's just saying goodbye. And then the death record. Anyway, now these are pretty decent records. You got to be a pretty big Warren Zevon fan, right? I mean, I think most Warren Zevon casual fans, you're going to want that self-titled on Asylum. You're going to want Excitable Boy. Maybe if you're feeling a little bit frisky, you go with Bad Luck Streak and Dancing School. This is really for the Warren Zevon completist. This is not an era that is overly, inspirational, but if you're a Warren fan, you kind of know, right? It's one of those if you know, you know. So I was really pumped that this finally got a reissue. Record, these were running for $200, $300. And so finally gets a reissue on Friday Music, of all places. Your favorite Americana, Sammy. And I'm just pumped to have that. So I believe now the only Warren Zevon record I do not have is Transverse, whatever it's called, the one that came out in like 89. Still need that one. But yeah, so those are 3 huge important reissues that I picked up. Next, let's just roll into some records I've been fucking around and spinning this week. I will talk about this band all the time. Why? Because nobody else does. And every time I play them, it just puts a smile on my face. And that's City Boy. I talk about City Boy quite frequently. Of course, this is Book Early. What year did this come out? 1978, produced by Robert John Lang, also known as Mutt Lang, which if this came out in 78, he was about to do Highway to Hell the next year and then blow him into superstardom. But City Boy was the first band that he really kind of dug into. Man, what a cool band. It's like this great combination of some art rock and power pop, similar to like a 10cc sort of thing. Leans big time into like the glam, leans big time into like pomp rock, if you know that sort of thing. I mean, just the songwriting is killer and the expression is amazing. And what I love about City Boy records too, you can buy like these first 5 City Boy records, which are all brilliant, for like $5. I mean, they're cheap. You can find them anywhere, but they're all absolutely brilliant. And I don't see people talking about City Boy, so I will talk about City Boy. It's another one of these records I've heard so many times, but every time I hear it, man, it just puts a smile on my face. And it is the debut from Vanilla Fudge 1967. Now, if you know this record, you know that the entire record consists of half-speed versions of cover songs, plus I think 3 sort of quote-unquote original, I don't know what that is. That's like that's a bad critter, but original sort of transition noise collage sort of things that they would later do in some of their later records. But yeah, I mean, it kicks off with a tripped out half-speed version of Ticket to Ride. That's not the last of the Beatles stuff. The song closes with their version of Eleanor Rigby. But here's what the thing that I love about this record. Whenever I hear that strain of People Get Ready, She's Not There, the Zombie song, and Bang Bang, the Sonny Bono song, that transition is just absolutely it's so creepy and dark and weird and trippy and bang bang. So good. But to me, this is the ultimate version of You Keep Me Hanging On. Man, their version, it just gets me every time. Just that big stanky organ that just comes in, the big build. My God, I love that. Vanilla Fudge record to death. Some just really creative, tripped out psychedelic covers, and just some really great stuff. Let's get a beer sip here. Sorry, the cat's getting into the beer. Can't blame him. Get down, buddy. How about this? I think technically he did release an album before this, but a lot of people will call this sort of his debut, I guess. Let's just see, 1979 on Warner Brothers. It's Prince. Now, I think he played everything on this record. Somebody who's a Prince fan, check me on this. Scott, if you're watching, I believe he played everything on here. And I'm a huge Prince fan. That shocks some people, but I love Prince. I think he's brilliant. I think he's a genius. I think he's one of the most underrated musicians and artists, ever. Again, one of these artists where it's like, if you know, you know. But this is such a fun record. What was interesting when I was reading the back of it here, for all you vinyl nerds out there, this was mastered by one Bernie Grundman. So there you go. But man, that Prince record, just a smoker, and we love it. Let's keep it moving here. How about Kate Bush, Hounds of Love, 1985. So for those who know, over the last several years, Kate Bush sort of had like this reawakening, I guess, because of this song Running Up That Hill from Stranger Things, right? Stranger Things, great show. This, song plays this big important role, and it also kicks off this record. Now, it was a single and a popular song at the time, but nothing compared to what would happen after Stranger Things torched it. And I love that, because I'm one of these people that was like, Kate Bush never got her due. She never got paid the way she should have. I love Kate Bush. I think she's absolutely brilliant. And so for her to just get paid, that's the important thing. Now, here's the thing. Running Up That Hill, brilliant song. Cloud Busting, incredible. Side A of this is so good. So good. But Hounds of Love is about side B, called The Ninth Wave. That's what this record's all about. For those who question if Kate Bush was prog or not, The Ninth Wave, man, that's that entire second side. Dream of Sheep, Under Ice, Waking the Witch, Watching You Without Me, Jig of Life, Hello Earth, The Morning Fog. It's some kind of wild story about like a witch who like not kidnaps, but like tackles and attacks some gal in like the water. Like there's some moments that you're like, that's kind of fucking creepy, not gonna lie. But it's so proggy and out there and cool. And that is, for the longest time, I thought The Dreaming was my favorite, and it still might be. But The Ninth Wave here, man, that just carries this record. What a fucking brilliant composition that is in so many ways. Let's get into some jazz here. How about some ECM, which if you know ECM, you know ECM, and some solo piano work. And ECM was no stranger to solo piano stuff, especially with, the Chick Coreas of the world and the Keith Jarrett's of the world. But this is one of the most beautiful records that ECM's ever released. 1975, this is Ecstasy by Steve Kuhn, who's just a incredible composer and piano player. This is perfect fall, Saturday morning record listening, man. I just put this on, you just sit there, and it's just fantastic. And again, it's ECM. Those records, most of them don't cost too much. They mostly sound extraordinary, and there's just a vibe about them. So yeah, if you're looking to kind of up your solo piano jazz game outside of just like Bill Evans, man, try to find that record, Ecstasy by Steve Kuhn. And last in the whole jazz spinning game here was playing this reissue from a couple different years. This is The Black Saint and the Sinner Lady by the great Charlie Mingus. Came out in '63. Now, this was one of the reissues that Acoustic Sounds did several years ago, so you got the really good packaging here with the great gatefold, all that type of stuff. Charlie Mingus, obviously a bassist and a main composer. Here's what I love about the Mingus stuff, and especially this record. This is like, and I think this is how it's sort of phrased too, experimental big band. He's playing with a big band here. I typically don't really, I don't really gravitate towards big band music at all. In fact, it's kind of like part of the jazz stuff that I just like don't go near. It's a little bit too like Vegas schmaltzy for me. He's using big band here, but in this very avant, experimental, theoretical, abstract way that very few other people do. So I'm a huge fan of Mingus, and this, again, is really cool just because it kind of has that big band feel, but it's a little bit out there, it's a little bit more experimental, and it's just good stuff overall. All right, let's get into the dollar finds of the week. Some of these, I was overwhelmed by how excited I was to find them. Other ones, I was like, I can't believe I didn't own that record. We'll start with this first one with that. I had to double check. I pulled up Discogs, and I was like, you got that record, right? And I was like, I don't have that record, but for $1, I'll pick it up. Genesis, 3 Sides Live, kind of a collection-ish of live takes. Most of it is coming from like the Duke sort of era, Abacab Duke tours. There is one, I think, that is coming from maybe Wind and Wuthering or something like that. There is one track that has like Steve Hackett on here, I think. But yeah, double live album. It's called 3 Sides Live. It's 3 sides that are live, and then, at least in the US, the 4th side is some singles, unreleased stuff, or stuff that came out as an EP in Europe. And then the UK had like a 4th live side, I think. But, if you're into this sort of tweener era of Genesis before they completely blew up into superstardom, this is a pretty decent live record. I'm a huge fan of Genesis, so again, I was just surprised I didn't have this. But I got it for $1. Looks like, on a little bit of, we'll call it water damage on the sleeves. That is not too hot. But you know what? For me, the discs are in good shape, and for $1, I wanted to pick it up and have it in my collection. For me, the highlight is on side 3, In the Cage, and, kind of this medley with Cinema Show, Slippermen, all that good stuff. Closes out with Afterglow. So yeah, decent live record. Of course, I prefer the earlier proggier stuff, but still pretty damn good. All right, here's a cool band. I think they were a San Francisco, LA band. LA psychedelic kind of proggy band that had their heyday in the late 60s. Originally, they were signed to Ode, which was like a subsidiary of Epic, I believe. At this point, they had sort of moved on, reformed, all that type of stuff, and I guess they call this a reunion album. But the band is Spirit, and the record is Farther Along, not to be confused with Further Along from the Byrds from about 5 years earlier. And at this point, our boy in the sun with your dress on, Jay Ferguson, he's out of the band. He did not return to the band, but you still do have what California, whatever his name is. I want to say, yeah, it's Danny California, like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Randy California. Still in his band. This is a cool record, man. I mean, it's 76, I think, so they're past their prime, obviously. It's not as good as 12 Dreams of Dr. Starr Sucking His Dick or whatever his name is. But I thought this was a decent record. This was an inoffensive listen, as they say. And here's the thing. If this was $5, I wouldn't have bought it. If it was $4, I probably wouldn't have bought it. Even $3, I might have looked at it, but I probably wouldn't have bought it. For $1, it's a, what do they call it? A cheap hole filler, and we'll keep it moving. Speaking of cheap hole fillers, let's go to the James Gang post Joe Walsh, but with the great Tommy Bolin. So I think Tommy Bolin played on 2 James Gang records. Check me on that, Steve, if you're watching. This, which is Bang, and then I think the one that came maybe before this. But yeah, good stuff. Certainly, there's more of like this sort of boogie, funky sort of hard rockin' vibe versus maybe some of that more, I don't want to call it Southern, but it was certainly a different sound without Joe in the band. But a decent album, and you cannot doubt Riff and Tommy Bolin for sure. Let's go to Canada, and I think one of the most underrated, hard-rocking, awesome bands out of Niagara Falls, which they would call the unofficial honeymoon capital of the world. So, of course, we're going to Honeymoon Suite and the record, The Big Prize. Man, I love this album. In the Shrink with the Hype for $1. Come on now. I loved this album. You know, Honeymoon Suite was one of those bands that was kind of just, oh, I heard about them, I don't own anything, whatever. I bought this on a whim, and man, I freaking loved it. It's just good old-fashioned hard rock 80s, a little bit polished, but I'm into that sort of thing. A really good kind of combination of leaning into, you know, the popularity of the hair metal thing, but had more of kind of a blue collar AOR sort of edge to it, man. Just some great hooks all around. And here was the surprise find of the day. You know, in terms of original Blue Notes, this is not nearly as expensive or valuable as a lot, but that's because people be hating on the funky organ, and I hate that for them. But it's an original mono copy of Rockin' the Boat from Jimmy Smith. Yeah, original Blue Note for $1. I think, you know, there's a little bit of writing on the back up there. Or actually, I'm sorry, down there. But I'm cool with it. This was actually in really, really good shape. Again, the Jimmy Smith record's not overly valuable. Why? Because people shit on the organ. I don't know why, but they do. But heck yeah, with Lou Donaldson on here, Donald Bailey on here, Quentin Warren on here, this is a funky, awesome funky organ record. And again, an original Blue Note for $1. I think this came out in '63. Fuck, count me in. And finally, we got two records that I picked up over the last week or so that are potentially front running for album of the year. At the time of recording this, we're in October, so we got two more months of releases. But man, these things are blowing my mind. This first one I'm going to show, I'm actually going to see this band here at the end of October here in Columbus. And I've been looking forward to this, and it does not disappoint. And it's the latest from Between the Buried and Me. This is called The Blue Nowhere. If you don't know Between the Buried and Me, they started as really a pretty aggressive metalcore outfit in the early 2000s out of North Carolina. After their first couple records, they really started infusing a lot more progressive elements into their work, and now they're kind of heralded as one of the best in terms of progressive metalcore, what have you. So all this to say, this is not an album for, when I say progressive and proggy, like, this is a heavy album. Between the Buried and Me is a heavy band. They have extreme vocals. If you're not into the screaming, if you're not into the growling, if you're not into the just pummely, percussion and all that kind of stuff, then this is not a band for you. But if you're into heavier music, and you're into complex music, and you're into progressive music, this album absolutely smokes. Now, I got a chance to see Between the Buried and Me originally back in 2008 or 9. They were on the Progressive Nation tour with Dream Theater and Opeth, and they blew my mind. And that was well before I was into extreme vocals or heavier music or anything like that. But they were absolutely amazing. This, I think, might be up there with their most diverse record sonically and musically. There's some stuff on here that's like a callback to like the 80s. It almost kind of has like an 80s King Crimson beat sort of vibe to it. There's kind of like an 80s-ish production with a little bit of pop elements here and there. There are hooks on here. But then, of course, you got plenty of what Between the Buried and Me has been known for, which is heavy, pummeling, in-your-face progressive metal. And to me, this album perfects it. And that's why it's a front runner for Album of the Year. Along with this one, potentially, that just came out today, a week ago. It doesn't fucking matter. It just came out. And that is the record LSD from Cardiacs. I'll take this out of this little thing here. Okay. Some odd packaging. Okay. Cardiacs, LSD. Cardiacs, God. And here's why. I'm not an expert on Cardiacs. They're a band that I've known about for a while. You can't find their stuff anywhere. They never really were popular here in the States. In fact, I don't know that they're really popular anywhere. English band, but this is like this is an artist's artist. This is one of those, you got to be in the know. This is avant art, proggy punk. It's cinematic. It's weird. It's, I don't want to say tongue-in-cheek. It's wink-wink. It's punky. It's aggressive. It's super progressive. And this album cover kind of has me freaking out a little bit, man. Great packaging. This is pretty hard to find. I had to check with a lot of different stores to pick this up. It's released on their own label. I think Alphabet Records, maybe. If you're into some obscure music that you want to kind of challenge you, it's not too avant. This doesn't sound like The Residents. This doesn't sound like Mr. Bungle. But it is more punky, proggy, odd time signatures, wild musical passages, one of the most complex and odd records. And I freaking love it, man. Again, give this a stream, give this a listen. This record blew my freaking mind. Nobody sounds like Cardiacs except Cardiacs. That's the only way to kind of put it. So, yeah, there you go. Check out that record. Those two are fighting for Album of the Year. And with that, we're done, man. 25 minutes later. Thanks to everybody for watching, as always. Let me know what you think of anything I showed or anything going on in the world right now. Cheers, everybody. Bye.